You ever see a scandalous headline and wonder, wait, did they pay for that story? Well, today we're going to get into the super controversial history of checkbook journalism. And we're going to do it by looking at one magazine that completely blew the lid off Hollywood's golden age. So picture this. It's the mid-20th century, and Hollywood is this perfect, polished fantasy world. The big studios controlled everything. And I mean everything. The movies, the theaters, and most importantly, how you saw their stars. They were selling a dream, and man, was it profitable. But under all that glamour, secrets were bubbling up. And one guy, a publisher, figured out that the truth, or let's be honest, a really juicy version of it, could make way more money than the fantasy ever could. Okay, so how did they keep up this perfect image? Well, the whole studio system was ruled by something called the Hays Code. It was this super strict morality rulebook, not just for what you saw on screen, but for the stars' lives off-screen too. It basically forced this squeaky clean image on everyone, so any hint of scandal or immoral behavior, it got crushed, fast. And right into this super controlled world comes a guy named Robert Harrison. In 1952, he launches Confidential magazine with a simple but totally explosive promise. We're going to tell you all the stories Hollywood is trying to bury. This wasn't just another gossip rag. It was a weapon, and it was aimed right at the heart of the whole system. And people could not get enough of it. I mean, the magazine's growth was insane. By 1955, Confidential was selling 5 million copies for every single issue. 5 million. That made it one of the biggest magazines in the entire country. It was pretty clear that America was hungry for the real dirt on its biggest stars. So you're probably wondering, how on earth did they get all these secrets? And that brings us to the big idea for today, checkbook journalism. The concept is actually really simple, but ethically, it's a minefield. Basically, instead of just reporting the news, you buy it. You literally pay people for their stories, their secrets, whatever it takes to get that exclusive scoop. And Confidential turned this into a science. They had a whole playbook. First, they built this huge network of sources. We're talking hotel staff, angry ex-spouses, even other reporters. Then, they opened the checkbook, turning those secrets into cold, hard cash. But here's the key. They would dress the story, adding all these juicy, sometimes exaggerated details. And then, they just light the fuse and watch it all explode. And listen to this. This is straight from the founder himself. It just perfectly explains their whole strategy. Robert Harrison's idea was to get one tiny, provable, compromising fact, the star in the hay, as he put it. Once they had that, they felt they could build any sensational story they wanted around it. He didn't see it as lying. He thought he was making the stars more interesting. So yeah, this obviously creates a huge ethical mess, right? If you're paying someone for a story, are you actually buying the truth? Or are you just giving them a giant incentive to make stuff up? That question is exactly why checkbook journalism is, and always has been, so controversial. The whole debate really boils down to two sides. On one hand, you have the defenders who say, hey, information is a product, and a person's story is theirs to sell. They believe sources deserve a cut of the profit. But the critics have a really strong comeback. Paying for news just encourages people to spice things up, or worse, completely fabricate stories to get a bigger payday. It just corrupts the whole process from the get-go. And for the most part, mainstream journalism has landed firmly on the side of the critics. Big groups like the Society of Professional Journalists basically say that the second money changes hands, it's not about news anymore. It's a business deal, and any hope of being objective just goes right out the window. For a long time, Hollywood just felt helpless. But finally, the studios and the stars, they just had enough. They decided to fight back, and that led to this massive legal battle that, ironically, threatened to spill even more secrets than the magazine ever did. And the stakes were just massive. Stars started filing lawsuit after lawsuit, adding up to over $40 million. I mean, can you imagine? That was an unbelievable amount of money back then. The legal heat was on, but the worst was still to come for Confidential. Because in 1957, it wasn't just the stars suing anymore. The actual state of California stepped in and charged Harrison and his crew with criminal libel. The trial became this huge spectacle, famously nicknamed the Trial of 100 Stars, because the plan was to call every big name in Hollywood to testify against the magazine. This timeline really tells the whole story. It was like a rocket ship. It launched in 52, hit this incredible peak in 55, and then came crashing down just a couple of years later. That trial, that was the beginning of the end. But here's the twist. The trial didn't end with some big dramatic guilty verdict. It was a mistrial. The jury just couldn't agree. So, to avoid another expensive and probably even messier retrial, Harrison cut a deal. Confidential promised it would stop printing scandals and only publish nice, positive fluff pieces. And just like that, the magazine that built an empire on telling secrets was totally, completely neutered. But here's the crazy part. Confidential magazine died, but the idea of checkbook journalism, it was very much alive. You could say its ghost has been haunting the media ever since, just changing its shape to fit the times. I mean, just think about some of the biggest stories from the last 30 or 40 years. The O.J. Simpson trial, where witnesses were paid massive amounts for interviews. The Tonya Harding scandal, the stories about Bill Clinton, Princess Diana, Michael Jackson. In almost every single one of these huge events, money was being passed around to get people to talk. So the legacy of Confidential is all around us. The playbook it created was picked up by tabloids like the National Enquirer. Then it moved to those tabloid TV shows in the 90s. And today, it's a core part of how celebrity gossip websites like TMZ operate. The technology changes, but the game stays the same. Which leaves us with this one really important question to think about. When a news outlet pays a source for a story, sure, it can ruin a reputation or mess up a court case, and it definitely blurs that line between what's real news and what's just entertainment. So yeah, the publisher writes the check, but who's really paying the price? Is it the celebrity? Is it our trust in the media? Or maybe, is it the truth itself?